Thanks, guys. We'll make a start.
Okay.
Sorry, something I was going to say.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining this PD on using AI as a tool for inclusion and accessibility in STEM education or STEM learning experiences. We do have some people here, and we've got you online. So I've never run a hybrid PD before, so forgive me if there are some technical issues, but we'll just kind of roll with it and see how we go. So I'm going to get started ASAP so we have time to do the things that I have planned for you, and hopefully so that you all get the most out of this time with us here. Okay. So before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the land that we run our programs on here at Casey Tech School, and that is the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations. We pay our respects to elders past and present. And for over 65,000 years, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have been the first scientists, engineers, and innovators of the land. Actually, I think I'll keep my camera on. And their knowledge of topics like astronomy and ecology, physics, chemistry, engineering continues to help shape our understanding of the natural world. And Indigenous Australians have applied STEM principles and practices in ways that modern science continues to learn from. And as we engage in STEM learning, we recognise that this knowledge is not new, and it's always been here, carried through stories and practices and country itself. And we commit to listening, learning, and working in partnership with Indigenous communities to honour and amplify their perspectives in STEM education and beyond, and also into our very own classrooms. So, a little agenda for today. We've just done the welcome and introduction. Thank you for your patience while we got everything sorted in the physical world. We are going to start with an understanding of inclusion in STEM education. I'm then going to introduce you to some AI tools that I've come across that I've found to be quite useful. And we're going to have some time to use those tools. And hopefully by the end of this session, you will walk away with a unit that you have designed and could potentially implement at your school next term, next year, using AI to help you do that. And we'll finish off with some reflection, and Andy will talk about some of the next steps going forward. So the objective of this session today is to give you some practical strategies to use AI tools to modify your current plans, to create new lessons or unit plans or learning experiences that are inclusive and accessible. And we're going to use AI to do that. We're thinking about inclusion and where does it fit within STEM. I think I'm of the opinion that inclusion fits within any subject, any learning experience. We're obviously focusing on STEM today. But ultimately, we want to create a learning environment where every student feels like they can succeed at whatever task is put in front of them. So whether it's downloading software or writing code or 3D printing, in making our learning experiences inclusive means that they will achieve success to their ability, no matter what their background is. So introducing the universal design of learning. Yes, universal design learning framework. If you haven't come across this before, it's a really useful framework to guide many different ways to make your learning experiences accessible. So one of the best ways to think about how to do that is through multiple means of what the Universal Design Learning Framework calls engagement, representation, and then action and expression. So starting off, when we start thinking about how we plan a unit in STEM, we're thinking about how we can design multiple means of access to that unit. So how do we incorporate all of our students and their experiences and also their knowledge? Because we don't want to be the point of knowledge or the sole point of knowledge in our STEM classes, because they come with their own experiences. We also want to think about how we can make support differentiated and how we can make support engaging and have continual engagement throughout the unit. That's often done through things like really clear learning goals and fostering collaboration. And then talking about that cognitive load, we want to design multiple means of engagement through emotional capacity so that every student can enter that learning experience no matter where they're sitting within their emotional sort of capacity spectrum that they come to our classes with. When we're looking past engagement, so we've got them in, we've got them hooked, we have them engaged, then we're thinking about how we represent the content to them or the process to them. How do we present information in ways that caters to lots of different learning needs and different accessibility points? So we're looking firstly at how our content is being perceived by students. Can we change the way, or can we create multiple ways that our content is being perceived for students? Are we looking at the language and symbols that we're using, particularly for students who don't have English as a first language or English being spoken at home? We're looking also at symbols that they might not have come across before, like they call it a hashtag, but that we know that it's a pound symbol. So maybe thinking about different ways that we're talking about simple symbols in our STEM learning experiences. And then lastly, how are we designing ways or different ways to build knowledge across that STEM learning experience or that STEM unit? Ideally, we want students to be building knowledge themselves, constructing knowledge through ways that they engage with the content that we're trying to provide to them. And then, so we've got them engaged, we've got their buy-in, we've got multiple ways of representing the content that we're trying to communicate to our students. And then the last framework or the last pillar of UDL is to think about multiple ways of allowing students to demonstrate their knowledge, what they've taken in across that unit. So we're looking at ways for students to interact. Can they demonstrate their knowledge through movement or through text or through video? Can they demonstrate their knowledge in different expressions? Does it have to be verbal? Can it be written down? Or does it have to be written down? Can it be verbal? And then we're looking lastly at strategy development. And that ultimately is just talking about getting students to reflect on their learning and having a metacognitive approach at the ability of that student so that they can take in the knowledge that we are trying to get them to take on and build the skills up to their ability. So that's the UDL. They have a really good website and a good a wide variety of resources that you can tap into, and it's all sort of free, which is awesome. And ultimately, I've lost my word completely. The aim for the UDL is to increase student agency. Sorry, that is a bit delayed on the screen. There we go. So we're increasing student agency through making our learning experiences purposeful, reflective, resourceful, authentic, strategic, and action-oriented. So UDL is research-based, and there's lots of research to say that it's an effective way to differentiate our learning experiences. And yes, so just making sure that when we're designing STEM experiences that there is a purpose behind them and that you share that purpose with students so that they have context to what you're trying to achieve. And ultimately, we want their buy-in. We want them to go, yep, I want to design a Mars habitat, but I'm going to do it to my ability. And that is my success. So really, really briefly, the role of differentiation, why we differentiate in STEM particularly, because we want all students to access what we're trying to get them to access. So that sort of low floor, high ceiling approach. And any sort of flexibility in teaching and learning and assessing as well, I guess, allows all of us to be flexible and adaptable to our students' needs. So the more tools we have in our toolkit, the better the outcomes will be for our students. So that's my sort of little spiel on differentiation and the UDL. Introducing the UDL, if you haven't seen it before, it's pretty life-changing when you start getting into understanding how that UDL framework works and how we can differentiate our content, our process, or our product. So where we're providing access to students through the resources that we provide, or we're providing access through how they communicate that, or we're providing access through the product or how they demonstrate their learning. So we're going to move into the AI tools now, but before we do that, it would be really remiss of me not to give you words of caution about the use of AI, particularly in education. So the slide will change in a moment. Oh, good, cool. So firstly, it's important to remember that AI is a support tool and not a replacement of your professional judgment. AI will never replace the effectiveness of your in-person, your human perception and your human judgment of your students. And another thing to remember is that AI-generated content is based on content that already exists in the world. So it's generated based on things that we've trained it on. And so the accuracy of that information is not always right, and it's not always correct. But more importantly, it will generate content based on the bias that already exists in the content we've made, or that the content that we've trained it on. So often AI will reinforce stereotypes that already exist. So when we're using AI to help us differentiate or create content, we do need to carefully proofread what we're generating before we give it to students. And even if we're asking students to use AI, make them aware of the biases that can come up when they're looking at using AI, generative AI. The next one is an obvious one, but always needs a reminder. When you're working with AI tools, don't upload confidential information, student names, emails, your email, things like school policy documents, don't upload those up onto platforms. You don't know where it's going. Even with big platforms like ChatGPT, they say that it's securely stored, but you never know. You never know where that data is going. Second to last, we should be using AI to help us enhance inclusion and accessibility, not create dependency on an automated tool. So I think some of the students that I've come across in our programs are very quick to jump to ChatGPT. One of the first things they'll say to us is, can we use ChatGPT to do it? I'm like, well, your brain's actually a lot better than ChatGPT is. So I'm going to say no, but let's come back to it, and maybe we can use it as a tool to help edit what you've already done or help evaluate what you're doing. So it's important that students and teachers, I guess, not becoming dependent on these tools that help us. And the last thing is related, ensuring that AI tools are used ethically, equitably, and effectively in our teaching practice, but also when we're getting students to use AI, or even if, I know some public schools, AI is not allowed in schools and how students use them, they'll be using it at home. So it's important to teach them about that ethical approach to using AI. Okay, so these are the 3 tools that I'm going to introduce to you today, and I'm going to ask you to practice with and have a go. The first one is Perplexity, and that's kind of like having an AI-enhanced, education-focused ChatGPT. So it's a personal assistant, really, that can help you summarize, research, organize information without spending hours sifting through all the information on Google or in textbooks. The second one is Diffit, and that's really, really useful for quickly differentiating resources. And the last one is Magic School, which is a huge platform, but we're only going to use a very small part of Magic School, and that will be to generate a rubric and a choice board that's aligned with the UDL framework. So yeah, we're going to use all three of them in an attempt to create a unit that you can use back at school. So we'll use Perplexity to design a unit outline and some objectives. We'll use Diffit to create resources tailored to that unit. And then we'll use Magic School to create a rubric to assess that unit afterwards. So you'll have something useful and practical to take home afterwards, I hope. I'm going to ask you to design a STEM unit on a topic of choice, and then add a choice board that allows for student agency and differentiation. And if anyone's ever used ChatGPT, you know that the better your prompt is, the better the outcome is. So when you're thinking about putting your prompt into Perplexity, think about adding year levels, maybe a varied abilities of students in your class, whatever's relevant to the design of that unit outcome or that unit overview, that needs to be in the prompt. Okay, so just in case you need some examples or some motivation on STEM units, I've got 3 here that you're more than welcome to choose from. So the first one is renewable energy, looking at different renewable energy sources and their applications, where students will create models, energy efficiency, they'll look at energy efficiency and environmental impact. The second one is using engineering principles to design a habitat that could sustain life on Mars, where students will consider climate environmental challenges, 3D modeling, testing habitats in simulated conditions, or the maths of cryptography, where they're looking at the basics of encryption, decryption, cybersecurity, and there's some activities that they could do. Okay, so I'm going to show you how the platform works and how easy it is to use. So the web address for Perplexity is perplexity.ai, and I'll demonstrate how it works before getting you all to do a task. So I'm going to create a unit plan on the Mars habitat. So I'm going to copy that in, and I'm going to say it is very much like ChatGPT. Create a unit overview where students use engineering principles to design a habitat that could sustain life on Mars. And then they need, also never ignore spelling mistakes when you're using AI. They need to consider climate, environmental challenges, 3D models of habitats, and testing designs in simulated conditions. This is for Year 8 students who are in a STEM elective subject and are very interested in space. And I'm going to hit enter. So it will create a unit overview for me. It will tell me that it's all the sources that it's drawn that information from. So you can click on that and you can go directly to the sources. And it gives me everything: overview, objectives, week 1, 2, 3, etc., all the way down to some assessment types. So I've read through it. I'm going, yep, that's pretty good. Now create a choice board for the assessment of this unit. And it will do the same thing. So it'll create 3 or 4 different options for ways for students to be assessed on the unit. And if I'm really interested, I can search images that are related to what I've put in the prompts. So it'll show me, here's an example of a weather choice board, or I can look at videos, etc. So, Emily, I'm going to ask you to share what you and your partner or your other participant came up with in your session, because it looked like it was science and I'm science-based, so I'm a little bit biased.
That's all right. We had the happy union of someone who was teaching circuits and me
Yes.
being involved with my year 10s at the moment in textiles. So naturally, we went down the path of wearable technology. So we developed a unit plan where students would design an embedded circuit in a wearable garment which measures temperature. Students will be in an advanced product design course at VCE Year 12 level, and the unit will run for 16 weeks. Students will have to produce a final product for assessment. So that's what we fed AI, and it came up with an outline including different resources pointing towards engineering principles, how do you actually sew in circuits into textiles, the prototyping of it, the advanced circuitry, the consideration of quote unquote biocompatibility and skin contact materials, which is all very exciting.
It is.
And yes, that's as far as we got at the moment. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, cool. And so the unit that it designed, does it look like something that would be something that you're able to run in a school?
Look, I think it was ambitious. It certainly needed a bit of tweaking because some of the technologies that it pointed us to were definitely not within scope of high school student understanding.
Yeah.
Nor was it going to be feasible in terms of being able to purchase parts.
Yeah, exactly. So a really good example of how AI is never ever going to replace your professional judgment. Okay, so we're going to move on. We've got our unit outlines or overviews. We are now going to use a program called DFIT to create some differentiated resources for this unit. So DFIT is another AI platform that is free to use. You do need an account. But let's say that DFIT, DIFFIT. And you can create resources for pretty much anything. You can, I'm going to use a video because I found a really cool video on building a Mars base, and I think it's really engaging for students. So I'm going to click on article or YouTube link. I'm going to paste that YouTube link in, and I'm going to click on preserve original text. And what that does is it uses the script from the YouTube video to generate the resource rather than using AI generated content about building a Mars base. So it uses the exact script from that video and the exact language from that video. I'm going to make it for 7th graders and in English, and I'm going to hit generate resources. And it's going to generate a range of different activities that I can then use in my classroom. It's pretty mind-blowing. There we go. Okay, so what it's done first off is it's given the script from the YouTube video. I can adjust the text to make it longer or shorter, add or remove certain content, change the writing style, the tense, etc. I can also, I've got a summary here, the key vocabulary words, and I can add images to those words. I've got some really quick multiple choice questions, and I've got the answers there as well. Please make sure you proofread and check the answers and the questions before you do it. I've got some short answer questions with some prompts or some model answers. And then, yeah, 100%. So for online, Andy said this would be amazing for a CRT to take a lesson, and some prompts that you might give students open choice in how they respond to. But the real use of this platform is on the right-hand side, where I can take this resource and turn it into an activity. So if I want to focus on vocab, I can create these vocab slides. I can look at flowcharts. I can look at CER, which is claim evidence reasoning worksheets is a scientific sort of approach, or not really. It's a logical reasoning, evidence-based approach to something. I'm going to look at vocab. So I'm going to create some vocab slides. So I've clicked on vocab slides, and that's what it gives me. It gives me the term, it gives me the definition, uses it in a sentence, and then if you're lucky, it puts in an image, or you can add in an image afterwards. When you're happy with what it's got here, so you kind of scroll through what it has on the left. You can change the color if you want, but you can export it in an editable format like slides or PowerPoint, or if you just like it as it is, you can export it as PDF and give it straight to students like that. So you can hit customize, and that will give you freedom to change whether you want the definition showing, what images you want, and I think you can change different pictures. You can change how these are defined. So you edit your definition. Yeah. Say you might, maybe there's a Z instead of an S, that kind of thing. So you edit it in there, hit save, and then it would change it back onto your vocab slides. Maybe let's have a short go. Let's have a short try in using DFIT to create some resources. So you'll need to go onto a different website and plug it in. Yep.
Your charts. Audience science. What that gives you. Victoria. Yeah. Because then you can edit the prompt. Yeah.
Okay, last one I'm going to show you, and I don't know we'll have time to play with this one. So the last one's Magic School. It is sort of akin to Schoolbox or maybe not Compass, but other sort of learning platforms that schools might use to manage a whole range of aspects within their school. It is American, so it's not all applicable to Australian schools, but I'm just going to show you one aspect of Magic School. You can also use it as an LMS, like you can load your students and create classes within Magic School and launch stuff. And I'll be honest, I haven't explored Magic School in depth. There's a lot here. There's a lot of tools that Magic School has for you to use and to play with. All the way from class newsletters to text scaffolding and social media posts, and even generating professional emails to send to parents. You can also sort of do all that stuff in here. It's again, you'll need an account, and it is free. There is a pro version that you pay for, but the free version. So I'm just gonna, sorry, my screen sharing is not working at the moment, but I'll try one more time before. No, it's not working. So if you just Google Magic School, it will come up. It's like a purple icon.
Just join as an educator.
Yeah, join as an educator. And I'm going to go through the rubric generator option, because the bane of my existence when I was a secondary school teacher was creating rubrics that actually mattered. Yeah. So Magic School, you click on rubric generator, you put in your grade level, you put in how many points you want it for. And then this is where the tools come in real handy. So it asks you to put in a standard or objective. And if you go back to Perplexity, where it's generated unit objectives, you can if you're happy with them, copy them from Perplexity, paste them into Magic School, and then you can go assignment description. I want my students to create a detailed 3D model of the habitat using CAD software, and that's what the assessment's going to be. So I'm going to copy that in, and I'm going to hit generate, and it will generate a rubric for me. So this rubric is scientific understanding, habitat design, 3D modeling skills, design refinement and testing, and then presentation and communication. And it also gives you a guide on what the numbers mean. So 1 point is needing significant improvement across all project dimensions, all the way through to 7, which is exceptional mastery of all project components. And so you would just hit copy and paste that into a Word doc, and then you can edit the text within that rubric. And that's a really quick way to generate a rubric. So I hope that PD was useful to you and you discovered something new in that.
Yes.
Fantastic. And so now, you know, it's on you and your integrity and your accountability to use those tools appropriately,
Yes.
and within reason, and using them, ethically, and making sure that you yourself as an educator are not becoming reliant on these tools. You're keeping your professional judgment, and again, making sure that when students use it, they're doing it ethically as well. Yeah, fantastic.